perfect solution for becoming fitter. So we're going to find that perfect solution for each one of us. Yeah, the solution is unique to each one of us. So I was 14 when my parents and I first joined a gym, which was actually here in town where Silver Strings is now. Used to be Tomlinson's Fitness Center back in the day. Donnie Tomlinson owned it. He seemed kind of old to me at the time, but I think he was younger than me now. So he wasn't that old. But he's really the reason, and that facility is the reason that I started lifting weights. I went, I was always the bigger kid in school all through my life, all through elementary school, junior high, high school. But when I started lifting, my parents, we all went together. Then eventually my parents quit going, and I was still going. He was there probably for 4 years, 4 or 5, because I know I was still lifting there when I was 18. Some of the people that come into the gym now here, I used to see when I was a kid working out. And I thought and they don't look any older or younger now. They still look the same. It's weird, but anyhow, some of them come in here that I worked out then. So after Donnie's finally they closed. So then I moved, went to different gyms, different things. So about age 22, 23, I bought my own equipment, and since then I've never paid for a gym membership since. Worked out in the garage, and then my garage, my house, and my parents. Actually started my business in my parents' backyard, in a little garage building that was 800 square feet. So that at 14 at Tomlinson's Family Fitness Center, and it was really no different than what I have out there. It was just all red equipment. It was pretty neat. But that's what really started me on, becoming fitter. Now there was times in there that I wouldn't work out. Probably the last 15 to 16 years has been very steady. Very few days missed. Very consistent. But then it was not so consistent. It was more sporadic. Try to do it when I can. Wasn't as much focused. But I've been working at it for almost 30 years. I've been exercising. So it started there. If there had not been a Donnie Tomlinson, if he had not had the idea to start Tomlinson's Fitness Center, would I be standing here? Would I have opened up Synergy Fitness? Probably not. I mean, there's things that have led up to the reason why Synergy Fitness is here, why I'm doing what I'm doing today. And those things, we can look back on our lives and say, those are horrible, awful things, or I didn't like the way that went. But those are things that shape us where we are at today. And those are things that decide, are we going to be less fit, more fit? All those things come into play. So, one of the biggest, there's one perfect solution to becoming fitter. And just as I've done for the last 30 years, it's no different for anybody else. It's being consistent over time. So if we look in a week, if we miss, let's say we're going to work out 5 days a week. Let's say we're going to go crazy when we work out 5 days. We miss 3 days, so we only hit 2 days. So we're pretty down on ourselves. But the next couple of weeks, we hit those 5 days. So when we look at the small picture of that week, we get pretty down. But when we look at our month and go, I made 2.5, 3 weeks out of those 4 that I hit all my days. Or over the year, most months, 8, 10, 11 months out of 12, I made all my workouts. I did what I was supposed to, whether it was walking, whether it was jogging, whether it was riding a bike, whether it was lifting weights. I was consistent over the year. Sometimes we get so down on ourselves that I'm going to start strong Monday, by Friday we fall off. But the most important thing is that you start again. You start again. You start again. And eventually those starts, they might start out with they're 2 weeks apart. Then they get a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. Next thing you know, it is now a consistent part of your life. So it's just a consistency over the long term. Now, does that look different as we talked about last week, as we go through our life and lifestyles changes? Yes. I used to run half marathons. I don't really care to do that anymore. So I don't do that anymore. Could I probably still train for it? I could, but I don't enjoy it anymore. So now my thought is, if I don't enjoy it, why beat myself up like that? So we have to find the things that we enjoy that may change over time to help us be consistent. Because would I still be consistent if I knew I was going to have to run every single day and do what I did 10 years ago or 5 years ago? I probably wouldn't be as consistent. I'd probably miss more. If that's why now my workout routine is I run 2 or 3 days, I cycle 2 or 3 days. Then I have a day where I don't do any cardio. So if I knew I had to run every day, I wouldn't stay with it. So I had to find things that I enjoy that I can mix up. So that's a key is to find what we enjoy. Another key to being consistent is plan your activities. Because if we don't plan our activities, I think I'm going to do this today, and then before you know it, a week later you haven't done anything. Oh yeah, I forgot to do that. I've had clients that they might start online training, and I haven't seen them do anything for 4 or 5 days, and they basically tell me, I forgot to do that, because they didn't plan. It wasn't in their plans. I have a 14-week schedule that will lead me up to my race I'm going to be doing in September. It's going to be an obstacle race. So it's a 14-week plan. Every day's planned out. I know exactly week by week what I'm supposed to be doing. All those are planned out. I know exactly what I have to do from day to day. Because I don't want to leave anything to chance. I don't want to get to the date of my event and go, oh yeah, I forgot to run that day. I forgot to run that day. Because chances are there's going to be days that I get up and that I don't want to do anything. That I don't want to do. If it was up to me and I knew I'd have to run for 45 minutes, I don't really feel like it today. I'm probably good with just 20. But I started with my final goal. What's my final goal? Which will be 13 plus miles. And then I worked backwards for 14 weeks. So to get here, I need to do everything in between. Now we don't have to always plan to that extent, but we do have to plan, what do I want to get out of this week? Do I want to get to the gym 5 days? Do I want to get there 2 days? But be realistic. It's unrealistic to say, I'm going to be there 7 days this week. Well, look back at your past. Is that really going to happen? No. What have you been good at? I've been good at getting in 2 days. So then start with 2 days. If you can consistently do that, and you feel like you want to do more, then add a day. So there's so many times when we lose that consistency is when we jump make a big jump from, what we're doing, and then we see somebody else doing, I want to do all that. So then I go over and do that. So plan your week, and you don't have to plan far out. If you want to plan your month, your year, you can do all that. But start with your week. Even start with your day. Even start with tomorrow. Because if you wake up that morning and say, well, what am I going to do today? Chances might be slim that you might get it in. But if you plan the day before and say, okay, this is how my day looks. I know this is going to come up. This might get my way, so I'm going to plan to do my exercise here. Maybe it's early in the morning. Maybe it's late at night. Maybe it's mid-afternoon. Whatever works for that day, and those days may be different. For me personally, my exercise is the same time every single day. On the weekends, it's maybe an hour later. But every day it's exact same time, because I know if I don't get it done the first thing in the morning, my whole day is going to get in the way of that, and I won't do it. No matter how much, and I don't mind exercise, and I enjoy it, and I'll still put it off, and it'll come evening, I'll say I'm not doing it. So if you don't really like exercise, it's going to be real easy to put it off. It's going to be real easy. So you just have to find a time that works for you, and then plan that out. A lot of us know what we have coming up from the week. If it's just to get two workouts in that week, then okay, these are my 2 days. If something happens, this is going to be my plan B. So we have to plan ahead. Also, know yourself. I have, over the years, I've been training for 12 years, over 12 years. I would say 95% of my clients that have come to me don't come to me because they don't know what to do. They come because they need somebody to hold them accountable. They need somebody that says, okay, I'm going to show up at 4 o'clock today, and I'm going to be there. Because if I don't show up, then I'm letting you down. But how many times do we make an appointment with ourselves? Well, nobody's going to know if I don't show up to go work out. I mean, it's like, why didn't tell anybody that I was gonna go to the gym, or I was gonna go to the track and walk? So if I don't go, nobody's gonna say, hey, did you do that? No. So that's why 95% of my clients come, is for accountability. So they can show up and they get a workout in, we accomplish goals, but they can't accomplish goals if they don't show up. They have to show up. And they know that about themselves. So that's important for each one of us, is to know what works for us. Are you self-motivated? Are you disciplined? When it comes to motivation and discipline, motivation gets us started. That, man, you know, I'm gung-ho to go out for a walk today. Day 3, yeah, I'm still, day 7, well, I had this going on and I'm pretty tired and I'm supposed to walk today, I just don't feel like it. Well, now we have to have discipline kick in. That's the difference between motivation and discipline. Discipline is when we had the motivation, but now we're lacking the motivation, but we know it needs to get done. So if you know, and that's okay, if you know that I'm not disciplined enough to show up on my own, that's okay. Find a partner. Find an accountability partner. It might not even be anybody that goes with you. It might just be somebody that you call on the way, say, hey, I'm going here, I'm about to do this. Or when they haven't heard from you by 8 o'clock in the morning when you said you were going to go exercise, they give you a call, a text, and say, hey, what are you doing? Where are you at? It needs to be somebody, too, that's not, oh, you deserve to take a rest day. You've been working so hard. You know, and we all hear that, especially if we're training for something, or, I mean, sometimes if we go to the gym more than once a week, oh, you are working too hard, you better slow it down. So, you have to find somebody that can kind of be honest with you and say, you really need to go, because, you know, that's what's best for you. Because sometimes we can't push ourselves to do it, so we need that person that's not going to sympathize with us, but encourage us to go. So, find what works for you. Maybe it's having a trainer, maybe it's having a partner, maybe it's having whether that's a spouse, a family member, a friend, whatever it is, just find that thing that works for you. And you know you, and it's okay to be honest and say, for me, I don't really work out too well with people. I like to have my headphones on, do my own thing. That's my thing. I've had partners in the past, I'm not real crazy about it anymore. It's just my time. So that's the way I like to do it. But yeah, and you know, so you have to find what fits with you. Just like we talked about last week. With whatever fits your lifestyle, that's what you have to do. But you have to be brutally honest with yourself and not fool yourself. Say, oh, I'm going to go on my own. I can do it. Well, how many times have you started and stopped in the past? If you started and stopped in the past a lot, that's a good indication that you probably aren't going to do it on your own. It's probably not going to happen. And that's okay. That's okay to find the answer to that. Just like, you know, it was okay for me not to, you know, I wasn't getting up the way I should last week, so I just switched my days, and now it's successful. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're unsuccessful, just means you have to redesign the plan to make yourself successful. Another important thing is take notes or keep a log on your activities. I have books from all these years of, I've had all kinds of different forms that I've kept notes on, and you know, weights and, you know, exercises and how much I weigh, my food diaries. I mean, I have them all over the place. But those are nice to look back. I enjoy looking at them because I can look back and say, oh, I remember when I did that. You know, I was running that, or I was eating that. You know, this was a time when I was successful. So it's a good way to look back and see where you've come from. And sometimes it's a good way to look when some things aren't going right. Well, let me look back 6 months and kind of see what was working, and let me see if I can, you know, kind of follow that plan and go from there. I might need to tweak it now, but I can follow it and go from there. So it's really important just to, you know, I like to keep track of, you know, how fast I run, how long I run, what weights I lift, because my goal is always, as I get older, if I can lift the same amount of weight as I did when I was in my 20s, then I'm pretty happy. I don't have to lift more. Doesn't really matter to me. I figure if I can lift the same as my 18-year-old self and that 20-year-old self, then I'm pretty pleased with that. So that's a good way to look back of where you've come from. Just like we've talked about before, it's a roadmap. You can see where you've been, and then it'll help guide you and direct you where you want to go, where you need to go. So I'm going to read just some benefits. Wrote all these down because I wouldn't remember all of them. But benefits of cardio and strength training. People always say, well, should I do cardio first? Should I do strength training first? And there's all kinds of opinions out there. the real thing is, it doesn't matter what you do first. Really what matters is what's your goal. Is your goal maybe to increase cardiovascular endurance, maybe it's to lose weight, then cardio is the way to go because that's what you're going to have more energy for. Is it really not, is it cardio just kind of a maintenance stage? And strength training, you really want to focus on that, then do strength training first. It's really whichever is first is the one that is your priority, and only because you're going to have more energy for it. It's the only thing. Yes, you're going to be able to run faster and harder if you do that before you lift weights. Are you going to be able to lift more if you do that before running or walking or anything like that? Yes. So, the benefits of cardio, so many times we do it to burn calories, but really that's a byproduct of cardiovascular exercise, is to burn calories. The number one factor for that is make our heart stronger. It's just like any other muscle. The more we work it, the stronger it's going to get. One way to gauge your cardiovascular fitness is heart rate recovery. So in other words, you do an activity, you're really working, and you sit down. How long does it take for your heart rate to come back down? The quicker it comes back down, the fitter that heart muscle is, because it was working really hard, and it's real good now at recovering quicker. Just like your resting heart rate. If your resting heart rate is higher when you haven't done anything, you get out of bed, and you notice it's high, then that's typical of not as fit heart as somebody that might, let's say, Lance Armstrong, I think his was in the 40s, was his resting heart rate. So that's a super fit guy, whereas somebody that's unfit, untrained, might be in the 80s, 85, could be 90. So, I mean, that's a big difference in heart rate. It increases heart and lung fitness, bone and muscle strength over time. You know, if you're walking, that's an impact exercise, so that is going to strengthen the legs. You're going to get stronger. You're going to be able to go longer. I have a client that started with me about a year ago. She was about walking 10 minutes on the treadmill was about all she could do, and it just gassed her. And it was, it was a pretty slow walk. It was maybe 1.5 miles an hour, so it was pretty slow. Progressively, we just took it up a minute each week. Now she's up to 30 minutes, close to a 3 mile an hour walk. So at the time she goes, and now 30 minutes at that speed, which is double the speed, triple the time, feels about the same as the 10 minutes, half the speed a year ago. So again, it was just consistency. We didn't go from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. We took minute by minute, week by week. Did it take a while? Yes, but we got there. So it also, aerobic, which is cardiovascular, aerobic exercise, also reduces the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, all sorts of things, different, metabolic syndrome, just a wide variety of things that as we get older, there's things that start to hurt, whether it's walking, okay, that bothers my knee, so now I'm going to stop walking. Well, what else can you do? Can you get on a bike, a recumbent bike that's a non-impact exercise and move around? Can you get one of those that you can sit in your chair at home and get that, I don't know if you've seen it, as seen on TV, it's a little pedal and you just pedal around. You can do that. So there's a lot of options, and if you can't do one thing, there's something else you can do. Maybe you live close to a pool, maybe you have a pool. You can get in a pool and walk, so that's a whole lot easier on your joints. Also, as we talked, it strengthens the heart. Your heart gets stronger and stronger over time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to get stronger and stronger. It also boosts your mood. Have you ever done exercising of any type, whether it's walking, whether it's jogging, whether it's riding a bike, whether it's lifting weights, and just been in a really bad mood? Came in a good mood and lifted or walked or exercised in a bad mood? No, because it boosts a good mood. Always say, there's never a bad workout. Some days it doesn't go the way you want. Sometimes you don't feel strong. But you get done, you just feel better. You feel better about yourself. You feel like you look better. You have a better attitude. And some may get to the point where when you don't exercise, then you get in a bad mood because you need that release, those endorphins to get going. It also keeps your mind sharp. My grandparents, they were in their 80s, late 70s. They lived over by the hospital. They would walk all the way to McDonald's every morning for breakfast. My grandmother, they'd walk, she'd always be doing crossword puzzles. I said, why do you do crossword and word finding? She goes, because it keeps our mind sharp. So our mental aspect is extremely important. So on strength training, we can maintain muscle tissue, maintain muscle mass. As we age, we lose muscle mass. There's so many ladies as they get older say, well, I got this floppy thing here I need to take care of. You don't hear that all the time. But if we keep exercising through those years, that gets less and less. It doesn't get quite as bad. I haven't quite figured out the way to stop it, unfortunately. But we increase strength, we increase bone health. It doesn't reverse osteoporosis, but it definitely slows it down with strength training, with weight-bearing exercise, whether that's walking, whether that's body weight exercise. It definitely slows it down, which is extremely important, again, as we age. It just makes our bones stronger, reduces that weakness. Controls body fat. The more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn. It's about 3 times a pound of fat is about 3 to 4 times of what a pound of muscle is 3 to 4 times of what a pound of fat burns. So if we're looking at a couple calories of fat that it burns an hour, then muscle is 3 to 4 times that. So the more muscle mass you have, the faster your metabolism can be. Also just decreases the risk of injury. If you're stronger, your core is stronger, you go to stumble, fall, you can catch yourself, you fall, you hit something, you have more muscle mass, so it's not like you're so frail and weak and you can't do anything. You're gonna have clients that, have cattle that, they couldn't lift the buckets to put on the 4-wheeler, now they can lift it up, put it up, So and that makes a difference, because otherwise you could hurt yourself rapidly. So the number one solution is consistency. That is the key. Whether it's and you may not have been consistent up to this point, but you can start just being more mindful, just as you are with food. Being more mindful of exercise. What can I do parking further away from where you're going in? Making an extra lap around wherever you're at. I mean, all the simple things we can do when Kim and I go on vacation we always take the stairs. Never take the elevator. Wherever we go, if we can take the stairs, we always take the stairs. It's just a little something that, yes, if you go on a cruise, you're going to outweigh that food. Probably not. But it's more than it's better than just loafing around and taking the elevator. So, just be consistent and be mindful of that as you exercise, and become fitter.